Top 10, let's go. So I did the reviews of BuzzFeed and the r/fantasy subreddit's top 50 fantasy books of all time. I've not read 50 fantasy series/books. So what I'm going to do is my top 10, and what I'd love from you in response to looking at my top 10 is to find whatever you think I've missed out on, and of course let me know what you think I should read in the comments down below. Put it in all caps, scream it at me, that's fine, do it, I don't care. Bring it on, fight me. So, of course, this list is subject to change depending on my mood and what I read in the coming months and years. So, first up, starting at number 10, we have A Song of Ice and Fire. Now, A Song of Ice and Fire I read once a long time ago, and I've started rereading, and I'm very much so enjoying the reread drastically more than I enjoyed the original time I read it. I find George R. R. Martin's writing style to be very, very distinctive, and it really helps envelop you in the world. And while I do not feel a connection to any of his characters in any way, shape, or form, I appreciate his writing style and ability to construct narratives so well in a plot that no one can predict. I just can't help but fall in love with it a little bit. So I get its popularity. I absolutely respect what it's doing for the fantasy genre as a whole, and I think George R. R. Martin has crafted something that will go down as one of the greatest fantasy series of all time. That being said, tonally, it's not my personal taste, so that's why it is so low on my top 10. It is still great, but it's not that great. At number 9, we have The Gentleman Bastards. Now, Gentleman Bastards does something a little different for a fantasy series. You follow criminals. You follow these kind of bad guys, and their story is not about being redeemed and becoming good guys. They stay thieves. They're thieves. That's not going to change. They are bastards. It's pretty much the best way to describe them, but they're not bad people. They're just criminals. And following these criminals means that the story is not going to be very predictable, because we're not going to be going through the steps and the tropes and the walks that we've done before. We're going to be following basically an Ocean's 11 style fantasy book in a narrative that I found to be captivating from beginning to end. And the last book ended so well. I'm looking out for anything written by that author coming out again. I can't remember his name, but I'll put it here. And he's wonderful. I highly recommend you pick up Gentleman Bastards if you have not already. The first book, The Lies of Lochromore, I guarantee will hook you in almost immediately, and you will fall in love with the two main protagonists like that. At number 8, we have a fantasy series I read when I was very young. I read them with my family, so they have kind of a special bond for me because of that, and that is the His Dark Materials series. And while the characters might not be the strongest for this series, the world crafted, or the worlds crafted, is absolutely stunning and wonderful. And there's a couple aspects to that world, like every person having their own little demon who's a reflection of them, but also kind of same and different. It's great. And it really helps any young reader looking to get into the fantasy genre. It's a great introduction. And plus it does polar bears fighting, so that's just cool. At number 7, we have Mistborn. If it wasn't for Era 2, this would be substantially higher. And while I didn't hate Era 2, it definitely didn't stand on the level of Era 1 for me. Era 1 itself would be bumped up quite a few spots. But I am captivated by what Brandon Sanderson is doing with the Mistborn universe, jumping it through time, progressing this universe to a point where we as readers get to watch it evolve before our eyes. I cannot wait to see where the next time jump's going to take us, and the setting and how the magic system will be infused, technology coming in. We're already having guns and magic come together in this super badass way, so maybe we're going to get laser guns and laser swords down the road, and I guess metal burners would kind of just be badass Jedi. Cool. I'm super excited to see where this series goes, and character stands out in Mistborn for me wonderfully. Era 2, it took a while for it to catch up, but Era 1 kind of right off the bat has some of the strongest characters written in the fantasy genre within the last couple of decades. For number 6, I'm going with Forgotten Realms. All of it. There's too much for any one person to read at this point jumping in, but the Forgotten Realms, in terms of epic scale and character and world and magic systems and just unbelievable amount of lore, is king in a lot of ways for fantasy. It is huge in scope, and the main character for a lot of it is Drizzt Do'Urden, or as apparently it's pronounced Drist, which I hate. I really hate that I'm apparently wrong saying Drizzt, but I'm going to keep saying it. My brother and I both love this series, and we bonded over it a little bit. He even named one of our dogs Drizzt, because why not? Even though it was a black dog, and he probably should have named it after the panther, but he didn't. My personal favorite here probably going to be the Legacy of the Drow, but that's just for me. We've not really gotten a whole lot of dark elves in fantasy, and I think they deserve more attention because they are some of the most badass races ever created. Cool to see an entire fantasy world where a Drow takes the lead for a lot of it. At number 5, we have Harry Potter. Now, while this may be for a younger audience, I think anyone can enjoy Harry Potter for its incredible magic system, great characters, unbelievably intricate and well done storyline from beginning to end. It's a little basic at times, but that kind of helps. It's okay to fall back on the basics, to just have a good time. And I think the number one thing Harry Potter's going for is just having fun. It's all about the fun for it, and it really just pulls it off well. It's full of cliches, it's full of predictability, but it knows it, and it's just trying to do that really, really well. And you know me, if an author's trying to keep it simple and to keep it simple well, I'll reward that, because you're not, I'd rather you hit the basics well than try to grab something very difficult and miss entirely. So J.K. Rowling did manage to write something that deserves its status as a classic. A big fan of Harry Potter. Not really any of the main three trio, though. I find all the back characters, their backstories, way more interesting than Ron, Harry, or Hermione, but that's just me. Now, before I get any further in this list, I want to make one thing clear. I am ordering this list by my personal enjoyment, not by what I think is the technically best fantasy book, because I don't think that's nearly as fun. So yes, the next 4, there'll be quite a bit of debatability about positioning, but again, this comes off my personal enjoyment of reading the series. Now, saying that, not in number 1, but in number 4 for personal enjoyment is The Lord of the Rings. I absolutely adore and love reading The Lord of the Rings. It's probably, aside from Wheel of Time, the series I've read the most again and again and again. I get having a fantasy list without Lord of the Rings at number 1 is blasphemous, but you have to understand it's aged, it's old, so there's some aspects of reading it that are not quite as fun. Having a song break in the middle, while it does great bits for world building, for the reader can be a bit off-putting. While I do still love reading Lord of the Rings every couple of years, no doubt, it's still going to be something that hampers it in some ways, just because it is kind of not my generation's style, which is why this entire list is very modern fantasy heavy. So for the top 3, I'm going to make an effort to point out what I think is the strongest characteristic of that series, and I'm going to try and really sell you on them if you have not read them, because by God, these are amazingly well done series. And at number 3, we have the Stormlight Archive. Reading Stormlight Archive has been literally, and I mean this, I'm not misusing the word, literally watching a classic being made. Right away after you finish the first book and put it down, you just have a sense of this is something that's going to be remembered for a long time, and it's raising the bar for modern fantasy in terms of epicness, scope, ambition, character, magic systems, world building. I mean, the Cosmere as a whole is really made, in my opinion, complete with Stormlight. I think Stormlight really is the heart of what makes the Cosmere, this multi-book, multi-universe thing, work. And I am so in love with this series so far. We're 3 books into what's planned to be a 10-book series. It could go wildly off the rails. I could regret putting it this high on my list, but I don't think that's the case. I put the first 2 books to 9s to 10s out of 10s, and the third one to a solid 9. Brandon Sanderson knows what he's doing. He's one of the most experienced authors currently working, and this brainchild of his is just, it's something beautiful. You can't help but feel that while reading it. Every character feels so cared for, and I think the aspect of Stormlight that stands out the most to me is how these characters are developed, because every character is not starting at point A. They're at B, and we get to learn about their A and their C as the book that focuses around them progresses. We get to learn about their past and their future simultaneously, and I think that is a very interesting approach to storytelling for all of your characters. To do that is ambitious, and it's working. Number 2, we have Lightbringer. This is a series that I picked up because of recommendations from you guys, and I have fallen so deeply in love with it. And the entire reason for that is the actual characters themselves. For Stormlight, it was development, but for Lightbringer, it's just the character. That even the worst bad guys, even the villains that are just horrendously evil, you kind of love, because they feel so real, and you get it. You get why they're doing what they're doing. And that's just for everyone. Everyone makes sense in Lightbringer. Every action and the result of every character feeling so real. When the author wants to build brotherhood like he does with the Blackguard, it works. Holy crap. I would kill to be on the Blackguard just because the level of camaraderie they share and how amazing it is to watch it develop. I cannot praise the character of Lightbringer enough, and the ramifications of doing it that well basically mean the story writes itself for the next few books. Every major plot twist is not predictable, but it feels like a natural flowing of events for those characters. It just, Brent Weeks, I've never heard of you before this series, but damn, I gotta read everything else you do eventually after I get through my 80+ book list. And number one, you guys saw it coming. I've talked about it so much on my channel. It's unavoidable. Kingkiller Chronicles. The Wheel of Time. I'm a Wheel of Time nut. It's in my blood. I can tell you the years and dates of events in Wheel of Time, the whole history of it, and the philosophy of Wheel of Time is something that I know by heart. The fact that it was futuristic and sci-fi and then everything crumbled and now they're back to the Dark Ages and that's the cycle, that's the wheel. It's incredible to me. I love how well it's done, and that is what stands out to me for Wheel of Time. I will make this claim now right here on my channel. The Wheel of Time is the best built world in all of fantasy, period. There's no contenders that come close in terms of heroes from previous ages that we get to know even though we're never really introduced to them. I think the building of this world was done so meticulously that it beats out things like Middle Earth, and that's one hell of a claim to make. I think if you pulled all of the world building elements out of the pages of the Wheel of Time and then just stacked the books, what was left, it would be about half the size it is. But it's not done through exposition dumps or just boring dialogue. It flows naturally. It infuses what the characters are doing in the events so that everything just progresses. So as the story we're observing grows, so does the world around it in a very organic way. And so because of that, I will boldly make the statement that the Wheel of Time is the greatest, most enjoyable fantasy series ever written. Thank you guys for watching this video. I am currently reading the first law, and boy am I enjoying it to the point where it could possibly crack into this list. Of course, I'll have to get further into it before I make any, bold, real claims, and I have to sit on it for a while, let it age, let it simmer to know what I will really end up thinking of it. So go ahead and like and subscribe if you enjoy what I do here. Hit the Patreon if you want to support the channel. I got a lot of support after my last videos. I really just had the idea of making a video covering that topic for a while. That comment, I was just kind of, hey, this is a good excuse to talk about this anyway, so that's why I did it. I didn't really care about the comment that much. It just was a thing to construct a narrative around. I hope you all are having an awesome day. No video tomorrow, but there will be one coming Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. And I hope you guys are having an awesome day. Like and subscribe, hit the Patreon if you want to support the channel, and peace.